Joining me on the More Than Your Age podcast is women's health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, fitness instructor, and founder and CEO of Lisa Lou Fitness, Lisa Arendelle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica. I'm so honored to be here today.
Oh, I am very excited about this week's episode. I think, Lisa, just based on our little conversations that we had and the tidbits that you shared, I think you'll have a lot for the listeners. It'll be very impactful and encouraging too. And I want you to have a chance to share your story and your big mission for why you do what you do. And so for the listeners who do not know you, could you briefly share about your business and what it is that you do?
Yes, absolutely. So, as you said, I own Lisa Lou Fitness, and I've been a health and fitness coach for over 31 years now, which is crazy. But I love where God has me now in my business. So my goal has always been to help women, quote, with their health, right? And that mission has grown over the years. So instead of just helping women with their health, what I do today is actually help them age backwards. And that is such a term that is thrown around so much that people really don't understand what that means. But basically what I'm able to do is give women an at-home biological age test, which tests how their rate at which their body is aging. It also tests their prevalence for Alzheimer's and dementia and other markers of illness. And so based on that, what we can do is start working protocols to literally age them backwards. So that is what I'm currently doing. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what gets me out of bed every single morning. My heart is for the family, but I get to them through the matriarch, which is the mama, the woman.
I am so fascinated by this whole concept of aging backwards, and we are going to get to that in a little bit. But before we do, I do want to know, so you just said that you have been in the health and fitness industry for over 31 years. Why were you initially drawn to this industry?
So good. So I have been, there was a guy that I was dating in high school who lifted. And so when he started lifting, I started lifting. So I have now been lifting for 36 years. Like that hit me there. No, 34, because I was 16 and I'm 50. 34 years, regardless. That's over 3 decades, right? It's a long time to be lifting. So the fitness I was kind of drawn into because of him. And then as I got a little bit older, my desire was to be a marine biologist. That's all I ever wanted to do, was to swim with dolphins and to, be a marine biologist. And so, but as I got older and my health started taking a little bit of a turn, and I started seeing, if I don't change things, I'm going to go down the same path that many have in my family. I started diving into more holistic wellness, holistic nutrition, a more integrative approach. So fitness is incredibly important. Health is incredibly important, but there's a way to do it that is outside of what we typically think of as the conventional box. And the more I started studying that, the better I got. And then as clients started coming on, I noticed that they too were also getting older and dealing with autoimmune conditions like I had. So a real big push for me, Erica, was just my own health issues and my really poor family health history. I was determined that it stopped right here.
If you don't mind, so you said your own autoimmune, what about your own autoimmune specifically? And maybe, and you don't have to go through your family health if you don't want to, but I'm just curious to know where you were like, no, this needs to stop here. What was it specifically?
So good question. I am super transparent about this online. It's in all my messaging, so I'm happy to share. So for me, it was congenital. I have congenital heart defects. I was born with 2 of them. Was diagnosed with autoimmunity in my 20s. Have PCOS, degenerative disc disease. My knees were a disaster. In my 20s, the doctor told me, and now at the time I was teaching step aerobics. Remember the risers? I was teaching on 3. I'm 5 foot tall, Erica. I don't belong on 3 risers. Like, wow, that was so silly, right? But so I was tearing up my knees, and I have a family history of poor knees, insomnia, and on and on. So the reason it had to stop with me is because the inflammation and the pain my body was in my 20s. Back then, I remember thinking, what am I going to be like in my 30s? And when am I going to be like in my 40s? What am I going to be like when I'm 60 years old if I'm feeling this way now? So for me, the joint pain, which was very much related to my autoimmune condition and some family issues with knee pain, heart disease runs rampant in my family. I lost my grandfather at 50 and my uncle at 49 from heart disease. So these are things that I just look square in the face and I'm like, if it doesn't stop with me, do I just hope it stops with my children or my grandchildren one day? No, it stops here. And so that is a little bit more of the behind the scenes of why I was so passionate about hacking my own health, really, really moving the needle and feeling better. And I can tell you, this is zero exaggeration, Erica. Today at 50 years old, I have more energy. I feel better. My joints feel better than I did in my 20s. It's like two completely different people. But it was work, but it was intentional work because I decided enough is enough.
Wow. I think that's wonderful. One, that you decided I need to stop with me because I've seen this history in my family. And so you're going to start now researching what all that you need to do to make sure your joints aren't hurting. And then you have this heart situation. And like you said, and then for children or future children or whatever. And so when you said, okay, no, now it stops with me. What were some of the first steps that you for yourself had to take in order to say, no, we're doing something about this?
Yeah, great question. So two things, and I love the answer to this because anybody can do this. It was no magic pill. I didn't have to go to another country to get treatment. These are things that really are within our grasp. Number one, I was over exercising. I was an exercise fiend. In my my master's is in exercise physiology, and I did a local television show teaching 3-step classes a day on 3-step rides. I mean, I was insane with my exercise. And at the time, you think, well, you're 20, you can handle it. My body couldn't. It was too much. So that was causing inflammation. And when you add in genetic markers that I had from my family history, it was making things even worse. So number one, I backed down on my exercise, and it took me years to really understand that there is a certain way to exercise that actually works with your body, and there's a certain way to exercise that actually makes you it makes you age faster. It breaks down your joints. It breaks down just your body in general. You just don't feel good. You don't recover well. The second part to the question, so exercise, right? So we all have within our grasp the ability to not over exercise. We don't want to under, but we don't want to over exercise. Number two was what I was consuming. I lived on and poor college student. We all have those stories, but I lived on rice and gravy and salt. And ramen noodles. I mean, that was my nutrition for so long that I just, it was carb mania. And when I was also diagnosed with hypoglycemia, what my doctor said was, you just need more carbs. And I'm like, well, the doctor knows what he's talking about. I need more carbs. And so I ate more carbs. And let me tell you, it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. So again, as I started entering into the world of holistic nutrition and understanding how the body works and understanding how foods so incredibly affect your body, then I started moving away from those inflammatory foods and I started feeling so much better. Now, I had done years of damage and I had autoimmunity, so this was not an overnight fix, and it was not an overnight understanding for me. Everything I learned in college, none of it do I practice today when it comes to how I eat. I mean, none at all. It was the food guide pyramid. What's at the bottom of the food guide pyramid? 8 to 11 servings of carbohydrates from breads, cereals, and pasta. What? That's what I learned. That's not what I do today. So it was a little bit of a slow process for me to come to that realization, but it's been incredible because not only was I able to learn for me, but I was able to take so many women along the journey with me that were my clients.
Now, when you were kind of testing for food for yourself and with your clients, was a lot of it trial and error, or was it more, okay, no, I know the error of all the carbohydrates and what's not good for my body? Was it, okay, well, now I'm going to try, eating, more of this or whatever it may be? Or was it, okay, well, let's find nutrition books. Let's see what all the research is out there. What did you do for your research for nutrition specifically?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow roll, and I started, getting certified in these things that helped me understand on a deeper level really also helped a lot. But again, that came over time, and it was some trial and error. It really was. For me, I didn't understand my body had a gluten sensitivity. Nobody talked about gluten 30 years ago, not in my circles. I didn't know what that was. I'm not allergic, but I definitely have a sensitivity. So that was big time trial and error. I didn't understand that, again, eating, heavy amounts of processed carbs, who knew, wasn't a good idea. So that took a little bit of time. But once I got into my studies, once I got into really diving into research, once the internet was a little more available, it was a little bit easier for me to rewind some of the issues that I had created and to really just start feeling better in my body, in my gut, in my digestion. I also dealt with irritable bowel for about 6 years, was back and forth to the emergency room constantly. They never knew what was wrong with me. And once I started eating the right way, lo and behold, and let me say, I want to say this, Erica, I want to pause for a moment, the right way. It's so easy to hear somebody come on and talk about the right way. Here's what I'll say. We are all bio-individual, and you will never hear me saying there is one way for us all to eat. It is very, very different. But once I learned what worked for my body, that's when I was able to make real progress in my health.
Yeah, that's so good and necessary. About, I guess it was 15 years now, was informed that I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease as well.
That's what I have. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well then,
yes.
I need to join your
Hashi
program.
sister.
And so, then discovering to be gluten-free. And then, and even for me, I felt like at the time there weren't the resources that there are now, but even and I know so many people, and you probably deal with this with clients as well, maybe, that you think, okay, so now I'm gluten-free. Well, now I'm going to get all the boxed gluten-free items. And it's like, well, that still is not the best for you. You're still technically gluten-free, right. But,
right.
Anyway, so,
yes.
I don't really know where I was going with that one but as far as just the food and everything, I do have a question here. So with your clients, when you were discovering, for yourself and for them, as far as nutrition, were they more receptive to try different nutrition methods, or did they have hesitancy?
I would say early on, probably in my 30s, again, because it was a little, I don't know if you'd call it cutting edge, a little fringe at the time to talk so much about gluten. But it didn't take a long time for them to come around, because you can take 3 days. If you're used to having gluten, take 3 days and go without it. Now, it's not out of your system completely by then, but for so many people, they can notice a difference in their body after just 3 days. So for many, that's all it took. They were living with chronic headaches and chronic fatigue and chronic bloating and chronic digestive issues, and the list goes on. And it wasn't every single woman that had an aversion of some kind, like an intolerance of some kind to gluten, but almost everybody could still notice at least less bloating, because what is gluten in? Typically the higher starch things. And I'm not anti-carb by any stretch, but what so many of us were eating back then was processed carbs. And that's the opposite of what we want to do.
Now, for you personally, when you did start going on this health journey to really but just prevent a lot of the health issues that you mentioned previously, how long in that whole journey for yourself did it take for the joints to stop hurting? I know you just mentioned too, it can take about 3 days to really notice a difference when you remove gluten, but there's a whole lot more as well. So how long did that take for you?
Gosh, I would really have to think back, but I started the process in my probably mid-30s. I was around mid-30s when I really started getting serious about, okay, things are not getting better, and if I don't do something different, nothing's going to change. So it was over the course of maybe the next 5 to 7 years that I really started, as I just got more locked down. And this is what I love to tell people: let those who have gone before you create the shortcuts, so you don't have to go 5 to 7 years figuring all this stuff out, because a lot of it was still this old stuff from my college years and things growing up that I was battling and I was kind of struggling with understanding. But after 5 to 7 years of just nailing down and understanding more and more about it, I had a complete shift in how I started and in how I started showing up. My energy, my skin, like even my skin changed so much as I started getting rid of the inflammation. So much of what we deal with is just inflammation. So I don't want to discourage anybody out there thinking it's going to take me 5 to 7 years. No, I had all this stuff in my head, and I was a research fiend, but there was also a lot of misinformation, and so much at that time was also written specifically to men. And it's amazing over the course of the past 10 to 15 years how much more now is written specifically for women, our hormones, and our own just our unique makeup. We're very, very different than men. So although we may eat the same thing, they may respond completely differently because they don't have the same hormonal makeup we do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So now, you're on this journey for yourself and your clients as well. And then when you and I spoke, and you shared this a little bit earlier as well, that your big mission and passion is working with women over 40. Now it's over 40. And you said also that 40 is the age where women start to say their best years are behind them. What did you experience from either yourself or other women that made you decide taking a hold of your life at or after 40 was necessary?
Yeah, another great question. So, I love to follow people who are ahead of me in age and who are crushing their age, whatever age they are. And I remember looking back when I was getting close to 40 and thinking, I never want to be that person who dreads their next birthday. I want to be like so-and-so. And I don't even remember at the time who I was following, because it probably wasn't through social media. It was, maybe locally. I don't even remember. But I want to be able to really love birthday after birthday. So far, I have never had one birthday. I know people deal with it at 30. They deal with it at 40. They deal with it at 50. I've never had a birthday where I'm like, I'm this age. I'm always like, praise God, I have another birthday. I have another year. And so at 40, I got really, really intentional, Erica, and I said, okay, here's my goal. Over the next decade, my goal is to be healthier, stronger, more resilient, hack my autoimmunity more, be stronger, be more mobile, see how many more people I can serve, see how many more women I can show up to serve in my business and in life in general, grow my relationships with my family. So I had this goal and this dream to turn 50 and be in a different place than I was when I was 40. And guess what? I turned 50 last November, and I did it. I danced into 50. Literally, that was my hashtag leading up to 50, is dancing into my 50s, because I felt so good, and I felt so much better than I did even a decade before. How is that possible? I was 10 years older. Shouldn't I be getting more achy and crumbly and, everything feeling worse and being all bah humbug? It's my birthday. I chose that was not going to be my path, because then how am I going to feel about 60 and how am I going to feel about 70? Like it just didn't make sense to me. And so watching women, your question, why did I go down? Watching women, my clients, women that I know, women in my life dread their next birthday, dread getting older, blame every single ache and pain on aging. Is it because we're aging, or is it because we're not moving anymore? Right? So for me, I just decided to make this massive mindset shift. And I can tell you right now at age 50, I am so pumped about 60. I have a whole other list of things that I want to do and accomplish and adventures I want to be on, and how much closer I want to be with the Lord and how much stronger I can be, and all the things by age 60. For me, that gets me impassioned about the next decade instead of dreading it. And isn't that what we all want? We want to enjoy this process, and we actually have a choice.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you said too, I chose to not dread turning another age or another decade, because it's so true. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing this show as well, is because I just constantly hear, I'm getting older. I'm so old to be able to chase after a dream that I want. Or like you're mentioning, oh, my body is aching. And, oh, well, that's just what happens when, in our family, when we turn 30, it goes downhill from there. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to. And so I love your message. I think it's so necessary and so important. And so I appreciate you just like the wisdom and the excitement that you just shared right there. I do want to know, though, Lisa, what are some of the items on your list or things that you want to do in this next decade?
Okay, so I want to go to Italy. Definitely want to go to Italy. I definitely want to continue. There's so much I want to continue to learn. Like when we stop learning, we stop growing, right? And so as I've entered this field, I hate to call it the field of anti-aging because that all that makes you think is external, but really entering this field of turning our biological clocks backward. And let me just pause right there. If somebody's 45 and they take this at-home age test and it comes back that they are 55, that means their body is aging way too fast. It's aging 10 years faster than it should be. Okay, so I just want to really make that concrete in people's minds. You can literally take that test again in 6 months to a year and watch those years roll back with specific protocols. I am so passionate about that. So that's another goal of mine over this next decade is how many more women can I reach with this message? How many more women can I share this with so that they can start living amazing? If you have the gene for Alzheimer's and you don't know it, there are things you may not be doing to prevent it just by default or, on accident. But if you know you have the gene, guess what? You don't have to fall victim. In fact, you won't fall victim, even with the gene, if you put certain protocols in place. It's incredible. Prevention is everything. Okay, back to our list. Okay, so I want to go to Italy. I want to reach. I get really excited about it. I want to reach more people with this message. I definitely want to grow deeper with the Lord. Every year, every day, we have a new opportunity to grow in our faith. And God has shown me so much over these past 50 years, but I feel like I am literally a newborn child in so many ways. I feel like as I'm going into Act 2, people say, I wish I could go back and tell my younger self. I feel like we actually have the opportunity to do that. I'm right here at 50. Nowadays, we know our physical bodies, if God allows us to, could actually live to 120. I have no idea if I will or you will or anybody else. But the human body has the ability to do that. There's many, many people out there who have done that. So let's just say I live to 100. No idea, but if God gives me that amount of time, amazing. That means I have just as much time as I have lived already on this earth to do things all over again with the wisdom that I have now and the wisdom I continue to grow in. How cool is that? That's like being able to go back and tell my younger self, well, now I am my younger self going into this next act, my Act 2, and I get to walk in the wisdom that God has given me. So I want to continue to just follow the path He has me on, follow the adventures He has me on, and to really, really grow deeper with Him and deeper into that understanding that this is my second chance. We all get that sort of second chance that we wish we would have known early on if we'll move forward. So I just want to lean into that harder, and I could literally name 20 other things, but I'll stop there.
You can email me them later because I'm just so curious.
Okay.
Well, okay, so you have this fantastic positive outlook. Have there been moments where you have had to push through negative beliefs about aging as a personal trainer, a dancer, fitness instructor, just a woman getting older? Were there moments previously?
Absolutely. Zero doubt about it. I mean, again, just looking at my family history, it's still there. When I hit 50, it dawned on me. It didn't scare me because I'm doing the things I need to do to prevent heart disease. That's the cool thing. You can be sure you don't get heart disease if you're doing the right things. And so I wasn't worried, oh, now I'm 50, but I'm like, whoa, this is when my grandfather died. A year ago, I was 49. That's when my uncle died. Like, whoa, their life stopped right here because of their lifestyle choices. So, yeah, I mean, ask me the question again because I just went off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Just basically, I said that you're so positive, but have there been moments previously where you had to push through negative thoughts about aging?
Yes. So that's one of them, right? Is just knowing, okay, some of my family had an expiration date way earlier than they should have. And certainly early on, when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I had actually gotten breast implants 2 years prior, within a year or two. I can't remember the timeline. And it wasn't until I was 40, I got them out at 47. It was 2019. So whatever the math is on that. I got them out at age 47. And for me, I realized that I had been in quite a bit of pain all those years due to my breast implants because of how much better I started feeling. So it's been like layer after layer of things that I've understood that have helped to heal my body. But I also had to push through back when my knees were a wreck in my 20s. I remember my mom saying, oh, her grandmother had terrible knees. She said she would just rub her knees all the time and moan. My grandmother, before she passed away, she lived till 93, which is amazing, but the last decade and a half of her life was in excruciating pain. When she would sit down or stand up, she would scream, a blood-curdling scream, literally every single time. She was in so much pain. Guess who else has knee pain? My mom. So I remember, again, being back in my 20s going, oh my gosh, I'm only 20 or 25 at the time, whatever I was. And this is my life. Like, I'm going to be like them starting now. At least they started later. So yes, I've definitely had to push through roadblocks and limiting beliefs that I'm just going to end up like everybody else. So it was a process. It's still a process. I still haven't arrived. I still have those times sometime where I'm like, oh, but I'm drawn back way quicker than I used to be, because I know that although God holds our number of days in our hand, he also gave us stewardship over these bodies, and he's giving me the information to then impart to other women so that we can take control where we thought there was no control, because we're just a product of our genetics, and it's just simply not true. 95%, 5% of your genetics is what makes up your history, your illnesses. 5%. The other 95% is lifestyle and environment. That we can do something about. You can do something about 95% the way you age when you want to. I do. And so, yes, I have had to push through a lot of limiting beliefs. So being where I am now took time, took courage, took work, took intention. But it's been so worth it, because I'm excited about the next decade.
Yeah, it's very rare. And so that's huge. Well, okay, we've mentioned this. Your main mission is to help women age well through intentional lifestyle habits to feel as good as we can for as long as we're here on earth. You've mentioned that. And you've also shared that you worked with your food, with what you're eating. What else do you personally do so that you're aligned with your mission personally? And then how do you transfer those skills over to your clients?
Okay, so on a personal level, how I'm aligned with my mission, and a spiritual level is just, I got to stay connected to the Lord. I got to stay connected to God's word, because for me, everything filters back through that. We can get really crazy about all the things and freak out and, go so far one way or so far the other way, and forget that we've been given a mission, a purpose, an identity to pursue right here in Christ. And so for me, from a spiritual aspect, that is how I stay aligned. From a everything else aspect, I guess you could say, mental, I'm always checking back in with my mind. Our mind is our cage, right? We can get locked up into a cage that we can never see and we can never move from if we don't if we're not super intentional about making sure that we are surrounding ourselves with the right kind of people, with the right kind of resources, and with the right kind of knowledge to move us beyond our own limitations. Our limitations are 6 inches apart. They're all right here. That's all it is. So that's a really big one for me. And then physically for me, the cornerstones are movement, moving and then moving correctly, food, eating foods that are good for your body, that work with your biochemistry. Sleep is huge. Everybody knows it, and nobody takes advantage of all the resources that are out there. That's one of the things I do to help my clients to actually sleep well. We need 90 minutes of deep sleep every single night. Deep sleep isn't just, oh, I woke up and I feel like I slept really deep. No, it's an actual portion of the sleep cycle. We need 90 minutes. 90 minutes of deep sleep means your body is restoring. We need 2+ hours of REM, rapid eye movement, because that's when our mind is being restored, and that's when our brain cells are being cleared out. Old brain cells that don't need to be there anymore. They're called senescent or zombie cells. Like, we need that REM. So people, think, oh, yeah, sleep, nutrition, and exercise, but have you nailed them? It can take a lifetime to nail these things. So we got to get intentional. So for me, those are the cornerstones, and the last cornerstone is stress. Managing stress. This is honestly something I am just this year getting better about. I have stunk at this part of the foundation for a long time. Walking into this year, God gave me the word breathe. And I didn't understand it until I got into the year. And this is a whole other story, probably for a whole other episode. But I walked into the year with a lot of trauma. And it wasn't until about midway in the year where I realized my breathing was very, very shallow. I found myself just, and I wasn't running. It wasn't like my heart was necessarily racing. I'm just breathing so shallow. And it's just because all this stress had piled on me. And I remembered that word that he gave me. And so literally I started going through, I have breathing apps. I have, all these breathing protocols that I do, because what it does is it helps to reset that stress level. So stress is another foundation. And people are like, yeah, I know it's important, but have you nailed it? I haven't. I'm working on it because it's that important.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm sorry that it's been a trauma induced beginning of the year, and I know you mentioned to me too that there was a time of just 6 months of just being quiet, and we maybe could go into that or not, but I'm just same with me as well. The beginning of this year for my family too has been traumatic, and it's hard. It's really hard, and so I think. I appreciate you just sharing the stress and how important, and even the sleep as well, of how valuable and necessary that is. One of the things you also said that I really loved was that your mind is your cage. And so what we allow ourselves to think, and what we allow how our minds can control what we believe about ourselves or believe about life, can be either limiting or it can be uplifting. And so I loved what you said there. So I'm kind of going to go on a tangent just a little bit. It's still about you and your business and aging as well. But I saw on your blog, one of the posts that I saw on your blog was about making new friends as a grown woman. I feel like I'm in a season, I got married in my early 30s. And then, so I had my first kid, like my mid 30s. So a lot of the friends I have right now are in their like early 30s. And so so we're in the season of kids, young kids, but everyone talks about how difficult it is to make friends. And my mom has even shared that too, just as you get older, it's a little more challenging to make friends. And so, why do you believe that this is the case, that it's more difficult? And what could you share with listeners that may help or encourage them?
Yeah. So why is it hard to make friends? When we're younger and we have kids that are younger, it's almost like being part of a club with other moms of kids who are younger. So there's kind of this immediate connection. As we get older, we lose that playground mentality where either we were on the playground and went up and met a friend, or kids are on the playground and you're pushing your kid on a swing and you're looking at the mom next to you. Hey, how are you? How old is she? Oh, she's so-and-so. Hey, let's go have coffee. Like, I don't know. It just seems to happen, right? It just seems to happen so much simpler. So I think as we get older, we start to lose that community that naturally came, because now what are we? Like, our kids may be anywhere from, let's say at my age, I'm 50, my kids are now 17, 20, and 24. So there's no moms hangouts anymore necessarily, right? Unless I endeavor to pursue something like that. So I think it's just as our kids age, and even those without kids, have a different set of maybe things that they deal with. Maybe they didn't have that on the playground when they kids were little, because they didn't have them. So, maybe after college they went into the workforce and they struggled too. What I can tell you, here's the advice I'll give, because this is the advice I had to give myself, and it opened up a whole new world for me. It opened up a whole new world. Be curious about everyone you meet. Be curious. Be curious. I remember telling the story, and I told this on social media years ago, where I'd be in an elevator and I'm the one that's like, please hurry up, please hurry up. I just felt so uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't know you, and you're really in my space, and I don't know. Even though I'm super outgoing and always have been, there's just something about strangers, like, super awkward. So when I realized that was hindering me just getting to know new people, I just decided to get curious. And it's super easy for me to be curious about older people. I love like, ladies in their 70s and 80s and 90s, because they have such a story, and I want to know, what makes them tick, and how are they their age, and what advice would they give to younger people. That's really simple for me. But what was harder for me were for people my age. I just really struggled getting into those conversations. So I just decided to be curious. And I started at the farmer's market. I went to the farmer's market, and I literally went with the intention of walking up to every single booth and finding out why they were there. What brought them there? Tell me about your business. Are you from here? Like, trying not to be creepy, because 100 questions can be super creepy from a stranger. But it just opened up all of these fun conversations. And you know what they did? Smiled so big that somebody cared enough to ask. You know what I mean? And so that is now my approach. And there's obviously times I don't do that. There's times where I'm in my little funnel and I've got my funnel vision. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I'm the friend machine by any stretch. But it's opened me up to get to know somebody who could be a really good friend of mine when I'm in my 80s and 90s, or who maybe I'm playing tennis with one day or whatever, because I'm just curious. So that's what I would encourage. Even if you don't consider yourself a people person, put yourself in the position of, how can I make this person feel better than they felt before I entered into their presence?
Oh man, yeah. Be curious about other people. I think it takes so much the focus away from ourselves, because we're so inclined to just focus on, I don't have friends. What's wrong with me? Da, 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 me. And that gets them focused on somebody. And that, like you said, all these people are smiling because they want someone to ask about them. They feel cared about. So I think that that's great. Well, so Lisa, this next question I have, and we can go into this and we don't have to, so you just let me know. Okay. But we talked briefly just a little bit ago, but you shared with me that you've been in a quiet place for 6 months. You mentioned how it has affected just stress, but how has it impacted your mindset, your business, and your mission?
Okay. So I call this my season of silence. And when I go, this has always been the case, when I go for walks, my brain lights up like a Christmas tree. I get all these ideas and I get all this creativity. There's actually a lot of science behind it. It has to do with the cadence of our walk. It's really interesting. Sidebar, go look it up. But my brain would just light up. I would get all these ideas. I'd be on the, voxing my colleague, and we're talking about all these things. And this is just how it's always been. April rolls around this year, and this is after this year has just started off rough. And April rolls around, and I remember I'm outside and I'm walking, and it was just silence. So another day or two would go by and I'd be out walking and it was just silence. And I literally, it's like there was nothing happening. Nothing was going on. There was no creativity. There was just nothing. It was a void. And I remember thinking, this is really weird. Is something broken? It was so different than anything I was ever used to. And backing up to the beginning of the year and all that had gone on, I was sad. I was just in a very, very sad place in April. But it's like, it was so sudden, Erica. It's like a plug got pulled out from the wall. It was sudden. And it took me a while. And I remember I'm out on another walk. I'm going to try not to get emotional. But I'm out on another walk and I'm just crying out to the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, what is going on? Like, this is a gift you've given me where I love these ideas and these thoughts, and it just gets me excited and gets me excited for the next thing I'm doing with my clients, gets me excited for what I'm doing with my family, and I feel nothing. I hear nothing. Like, what's going on? And I felt in my spirit, I did not hear it with my words, but I felt it so strongly in my spirit. This is your time with me. This is your time with me. And so from then on, my walks were just prayer walks, because that's all I could do was pray. And it was really a significant period of time, and it literally was 6.5 months of just, didn't have a whole lot to give. I was barely on social media. I had to be on there enough, and I did a lot of reposting just to stay in the algorithm, because you don't want to start all over again. But it was a significantly difficult yet healing season. This was my time for healing. There was also childhood stuff I had never dealt with. I'm an Enneagram 7, if you know anything about the Enneagrams, and we just like to party. We just like to be happy, and we don't like conflict, we don't like confrontation, and we don't like sadness. And so what we do is just shove all those emotions under the rug. And I had done that for so long that God just had to really get my attention and say, if you want to go to the next level of serving women like you say you do, we got things to deal with. And so it was difficult, but it was one of the best things that I have ever done.
Wow. Well, and then I know you also recently had this retreat too, where it was just time to be away. Was that in part because of this season of being in prayer? Was that in part why you decided to retreat, or would you like to explain some of that too?
Yeah, so I call it my solo retreat. I went away for 3 days. I've just never done that before. Went away all by myself, and it was not an option, Erica. I didn't go away because I wanted to go away. God was calling me away. I'm just telling you, he was for the last 3 months. I have felt him saying, come away, come away, come away. Because even though I was in a season of silence, my husband works from home. My daughter, she homeschools and she works from home. I work from home. Like there's still, busyness and stuff going on. And so I just needed to get away with him. And I got work done, but I had so much time to just be in union with him. It was beautiful. It was so precious. It was such a precious time. And I think I was telling you before we started, I've decided that I'm going to do this once a quarter because it was just such a sweet time with the Lord. I was on this little farm. I went to this little Airbnb and it was this little house and they had many horses and many donkeys and I'm all about many animals. God just knew those details ahead of time. And it was me and the animals on this farm. And I didn't leave for 3 days. I literally brought all of my food, parked my car, and did not leave for 3 days because I just wanted to be present with every single moment. And I was. And it was amazing. And I highly recommend it. If it is within the realm of possibility, I went an hour away because I just didn't want to be able to run back home because I forgot something. I wanted to be far enough away. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. So for anybody listening, if that is within the realm of possibility, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, that as I'm listening to you saying that, I'm like, man, it's just a great idea of thinking like, I need to schedule that in for myself as well.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things too you shared with me is that you're working on a beta version of what may turn into a devotional, faith forward, age backward. Could you share what this is? And then also I'd love for you to go into detail of the whole aging backward and the testing with that.
Yes.
And how do you do that? And what does that even mean? So would you just share all about that, please?
If you're going to twist my arm, it's not like I love to talk about this or anything. My favorite topic always. Okay, so first of all, yes. So I'm releasing a program at the very beginning of October called Faith Forward, Aged Backward, Over 40 Activation. It is a full, robust program. Part of it is the devotional, okay? So I'll get to that in a moment. But the program itself includes the biological age test. So that is sent directly to their home. It is a few drops of blood. You do this little tiny finger prick, a few drops of blood, and it gives you all this incredible feedback, which I'll come back to in a moment. The devotional is a big part of it. It's called Faith Forward, Age Backward, because for me, again, I want Christ at the center. I want to help women awaken supernatural faith. I really want to help them go into this next season of their life, not just quote, aging well or even aging in reverse, but spiritually aging forward. Like we want to grow in our wisdom and our faith and our knowledge of God. So that is definitely a big part of it. There's also a 7-day detox to kick off liver cleanse and weight loss for those looking for weight loss. I like to look at it as waist loss over weight loss because a waist circumference of just 35 inches can more than double your risk of cardiovascular disease. So shrinking our waist, having a good waist to hip ratio, very, very important. So for those looking for that, I've done it. I'm actually in the middle of one right now, the same detox. I didn't want weight loss, but I'm getting the cleanse and the detox and the autophagy benefits from it, which is the cellular cleaning so that you can just feel so much better. Didn't have the same energy a few days ago, my first day of the detox, but I'm on day 4 and I feel amazing now. So it comes with a lot of that. And what they're also getting is something I've never given away before, and it is a high amount of access to me. So there's an app called Voxer. I don't know if you're familiar with Voxer, but it's an app that you can basically talk on almost like a walkie-talkie. You can text, but you can also leave voice messages. And every single participant for the entire 3 months together is going to get weekly access to me because I really want to shepherd them through this journey. So as you mentioned, this is a beta. It is a founding participant. So the price is better than it will ever be. And they're getting more access to me than they'll ever get as well. And I can only take on so many women. So let me go back to the biological age test. So yes, so what this test does is it tests your methylation pathways and markers. So basically, how well does your body, can it absorb B9, which is basically folate. If not, that can really wreak havoc with a lot of different issues with your body. The good news is it's not hard to turn around like at all. You may just need a little extra supplementation, but you don't know that you have that unless you test for it. Like I mentioned, it also tests for your markers of Alzheimer's and dementia. So what we can do is look at the test and say, I have no prevalence of it at all. It doesn't mean you're out of the woods completely. You still need to put things in place. It just means that you're not genetically prone to it. What if you are genetically prone? Well, that's faith forward, age backward, over 40 activation. You're going to be learning protocols on how to reverse the aging of the brain, the aging of the skin, the aging of all of the cells. Literally every cell can age backwards. And so what that does is it matters all over your body from the inside and the outside. So it tests all these different markers. And again, it tells you your rate at which you're aging. So, I may have women come in at 50 and their test may come back that they're 47. Oh my gosh, they're doing amazing. We always want to be 0.95% or less aging, right? So we want to be aging less than our chronological years by at least a little bit. That's the goal. Okay. And then the more we pull that backwards, the better. And you can. The physician who actually, I'm in his certification right now. I can't remember where his age was when he started out, but it was years beyond his chronological age because he had so many autoimmune conditions and different sicknesses. He had been on over 300 antibiotics. And when he started putting these protocols in place, right now at age 45, his biological age is 36. So just to tell you, this literally you can, and so we want that age to go backwards because that means we're aging healthier. That means our joints are aging better, our muscles, our organs, our brain, our skin, like everything is actually aging better. So that is a big part of what we're going to be doing. We'll test at the beginning. When we get our test results, I'll be reading everybody's test results for them individually to help them understand exactly what their tests mean and to give them a roadmap for, how to put these protocols in place for themselves.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. And so this is the beta version, and you said it starts in October. So at the time of this recording, it'll start in just a few weeks. And it lasts for 3 months. Are you thinking after you do this first round, are you thinking, okay, we'll take what we got, assess, and then do another round come the beginning of the next year of 2024?
Yeah, the timing, I'm not sure when I'll launch it again, but that is the goal, to take this and I want to help. That's why these people are getting such a high level of accountability with me. And there's so many other things that come with this. I just, don't want to muck up all the time because people can go and take a look if they want. I've got a wait list right now that I can tell you about if you want them to know. But doing it right at the beginning of the year, probably not, but maybe in late February, early March. It's just going to kind of depend on how this round, we're planning to go till mid-January. We're starting, even though it launches, doors open October 2nd, but we are as a group starting October 16th. So by mid-January, we'll be done. So then, how much time for the turnaround, it kind of depends on how exhausted I am from this one. We'll see.
Yeah. It just sounds so fascinating. I'm like, man, just being able to get that test work done and be able to see and, see also what we have no idea that maybe is going on in our body. Like you're saying that maybe you have indicators for Alzheimer's, and that's not for us to look at that and say, oh, well, now I'm doomed, kind of with that mindset
That's
shift,
right.
But it's more of, no, now there's protocol of what we can do to prevent that. Lisa, I just love your mindset. I love your personality and this program. I think it's wonderful. I have one more question to ask you. This is the question that I ask all of my guests and would love to hear your answer for this. Excuse me. If you could encourage one woman who feels blocked or limited to pursue a dream or goal based on her age or life circumstance, what would you tell her?
So the first thing I would do is ask a question, and that question would be, what is your limiting belief and what is your cage? What is your cage that you have created in your mind? So what is that block? What is that limiting belief? For some people, it's a fear of success. For some people, it's a fear of failure. For some, it's self-sabotage. For some, it's trauma from growing up, right? We all have this different thing that we've put in this little tiny cage that sits in our mind and that we let rule how we move forward with our life. So I'd have to start with that question because it's got to start with mindset. I can give you all the advice and tips and tools and tricks, but if we don't get to the root of what is it, why do you feel blocked? Why do you feel limited? Who told you that? Why are you there? Because we have to give away our power. Nobody can take it. We have to choose to give it away. And so my advice would be, answer that question, get real with it, look it in the face, try and figure out where it stems from. Excuse me, let me move this out of the way so it doesn't fall. And second of all, if age is part of it, because I know some of the women here may just be thinking, I just feel like I'm too old. Or maybe they feel like their body has gotten to a part where it's too hard to back it up. Here's what I want you to remember. So much about our perception of aging comes from the matriarchs in our family. Again, saying, oh, this pain is because I'm too old, and this pain, or wait till you get to be my age, honey. That one gets me every time. Wait till you're my age. Like, why would we do that to anybody? Why would we say that? Wait till you're my age. So if we get our perception of aging from those who have gone before us, and you've listened to any part of this podcast, I hope you understand you have complete control over your perception. Number one, so that's over your mind. So we got to deal with that cage so that we can get past it, gain a new perception and perspective, and we have control over what we're doing with our body. So it really depends on what are we talking about? What is that limiting belief? What is that cage in particular that you have put, in this place that you can't seem to move forward? What is it? Where does it come from? So that we can then know how to move forward. And I would say just find someone to help you. Find someone who is either, whether it's a coach or friend, it could just literally be a friend who can help get you out of this mode, help you hold you accountable, and who you can give your goals, your plans, your dreams for your next birthday and your next decade to, who could check in on you every now and then and say, how's that going? Are we moving toward that goal?
Love it. And Lisa may be your girl, ladies and gentlemen, for this program. Lisa, would you please just share with the listeners where they can find you, where if they're interested in your program or looking into it, your website and social media, anything that you want to share?
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Erica. So if you're interested in the Faith Forward Age Backward Over 40 activation, I would definitely say get on my wait list. And you can go to lisalufitness.com/waitlist. And that's Lisa Lou, LOU.com/waitlist. And that way, because the people on my wait list are actually getting VIP priority and pricing. And if all the spots go with them, it won't even go to the public. So that's important, is to get on the wait list. You can find me on Instagram. That's probably where I am most active, and that's at Lisa Lou Fitness. You can reach me via email, info@lisalufitness.com. But if you DM me on Instagram, I answer all of my DMs, and I love it. In fact, I had to, just a little funny side note, I actually had to reach out to a follower today who sends me at least 10 reels a day. I don't know why she does it, but she DMs me 10 reels. And she's the sweetest lady. And I said, look, I just want you to know that it is so important to me to answer these DMs. And I love when you come in here and you talk and you have something to say, because I like to connect with you. But please understand, I can't watch all these reels. I can't, because it's more important to me to answer your messages than go watch these reels. So anyway, know that I answer my DMs. It's very important to me to connect with the women who want to connect. Just don't send me reels. But other than that, I would love to connect with you, answer any questions, help in any way. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, I loved it all, Lisa. Thank you so much. I will also put your information in the show notes so that people can find you there. And Lisa, I just appreciate you so much for joining the More Than Your Age podcast. Thank you so much.
Erica, thank you for having me. You're a fabulous interviewer. You're just amazing. And I love you. I love what you're doing, and I love what you're putting out there to the world as well. So thank you. It's been just such an honor to be here with you and to be part of your audience today. So thank you so much again.